Shadows where the truth hides deep. Echoes of the lost and the secrets they keep. Cold cases burn in the back of your mind. We dig through the dark, one clue at a time. This ain't fiction, this is blood, this is truth. 12-gauge investigative, justice uncaged. We ask the questions that too scared to say, shining a light where the guilty pray from killers.
This is 12-gauge investigative. Let's jump in.
We're built for the case. Just getting started. Justice is just getting started. 12-gauge investigative. We don't miss.
All right. I don't know how you guys are doing this morning. It is currently 1:53 a.m. in Texas. I couldn't sleep for some reason. I kept waking up. Either the dogs barking or hearing some random noises outside. So I thought, let me get up and do this for a little bit and maybe it'll calm my brain a little bit. This is going to be a video that I did a while back, but nonetheless, it's quite informative. So I thought I would get on here and I would not only stop it when I needed to, but also let myself narrate it and let you enjoy. So here we go. Called Deception of a Killer. It's kind of an outline of everything that has went on with the Idaho 4 case, and I broke it down into like a PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about it. So I hope you enjoy. Jet set, we're fine. I didn't put this disclaimer in the intro. Everybody's opinion is valid in the chat. You know, we agree to disagree. And you're in this chat, you can speak freely. You can talk about things as long as you don't attack me or you cuss me or any of my panel guests whenever I have people up here. We're good. So let me see what you have to say. Respectfully, there's cameras with microphones that can pick up a long distance. So I'm not convinced it is or isn't from inside the house. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know it's from inside the house. I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, outside the box a little bit because, you know, that light bulb cam, it was out there for a while, and I don't know if I don't know if they how much sound that a ring light bulb cam like that could actually pick up. It really makes me wonder if that light bulb cam actually caught any more sound than it did at the very end. I mean, if it caught that much, how much more throughout that whole time could that cam have caught? Let me know if you're still hearing me because I've never done this before where I've been behind the video. Let me know if you can still hear me. It doesn't say the time. but I will search more and I'll put it in the community tab. That way, um, and I'll also repost this. I'll put the time if I can find it. Okay. I have this that I made today. I hope that you can see it. Let me kind of blow it up a little bit. I don't have Google. I don't have the Office on this laptop because it's a gaming laptop. So I've never bought the Office 365 on it. So I'm going to show it to you in this this type of format. It said the state of Idaho versus Brian Christopher Koberger. I broke it down. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit of what I found because at the end I'll summarize it all up. So bear with me. If there's anything in here that's wrong or I've forgotten something or I didn't put it right, I did this from memory. I didn't actually go and look up stuff because I've heard so much of it that, I kind of have it memorized. Defendant Brian C. Koberger charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 charge of felony burglary. Obviously, the rights of his is the Miranda warning, the Miranda rights, the Fourth Amendment right, the Fifth Amendment right, the Sixth Amendment, which grants citizens the right to a jury composed of impartial members drawn from the local community. So those are the rights that he has going into the trial upon his arrest. And I broke down the witnesses. Jack D, of course, was the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee. And as far as I know, I've heard 2 things. I heard he was cleared and I heard he wasn't cleared. Jack S, which was a friend that you saw walking with Maddie and Kaylee and was at the grub truck with them. As far as I know, he's been cleared. Dylan Mortensen was one of the surviving roommates. She's been cleared. Bethany Funk, which was a surviving roommate, she's been cleared. Adam Lauda, which was the bartender, as far as I know, he's been cleared. So these were some of the witnesses that were close to this crime. Okay, and as far as I know, all of them have been cleared. If any of that is incorrect, please let me know, okay? So here's some of the evidence that was recovered from the suspect's home or on the scene. And I took this from the document. So it says 1 knife sheath, trace DNA, 1 knife, which was recovered at his home or his parents' home in Albertsville, a dark jacket, an AT&T bill made out to him, a Glock 22 Generation S 40 caliber. Okay, what I did is I broke down all this stuff on both of the incident reports of the evidence that they found, not only in the car, but also at his residence in Pennsylvania. So that's what this list is about. Smith & Wesson pocket knife, a folder containing car paperwork, an Acer laptop, green leafy substance in green container, documents, green leafy substance in a plastic bag, white paper with a password on it, power cable, cell phone, 3 Glock 40 cal magazines, which were empty, books, I don't know what a book is, a black face mask, prescription, black gloves, 1 black hat, 1 black mask, PCA evidence mentioned, first-hand witness identification of the suspect, personal identifying paperwork, New Balance shoes, dark-colored jacket, dark-colored shirts, dark-colored pants, clear plastic glove, laptop which was damaged with a receipt for a 22 Generation 40 Glock, item photographed but not taken, a note in a desk, criminal psychology textbook, documents, extra large Columbia fleece, a man's hand drawing, 10 curls inside a glove, inside a box. I don't know, 10 curls of what? Like hair? 10 curls of dog hair? I don't know. I mean, they said they found animal hair there, so I don't know if that's it. It wasn't mentioned in the in the documents, it just said 10 curls inside a glove inside of a box. Various criminology books, a license, notes, card, dark colored hats, a motherboard, WSU paperwork, note from Brian to Montana, medical documents, court documents. I was wondering what these court documents were. What kind of court documents would he have there? Like, what would he be going to court for? That just piqued my interest, but that was on there. Note to Dad from Brian, colored spiral notebook, dark colored clothes. HP, all-in-one computer, dark clothes in a laundry basket, Taylor cutlery knife with knife sheath, 4 buccal swabs, 2 pairs of dark colored boots, 51 terabytes of digital data, 1 pair of brown boots, 1 silver flashlight, 4 medical style gloves, white on a jean company t-shirt, extra large, Champion black WSU black shirt, white and black size 13 Nike shoes. In the car, they found a tire iron, shovels, goggles, other tools, hotel key, and spare change. In the house, most certainly collected with blood evidence, DNA swabs, latent shoe print, autopsy, photos, x-rays, boot print in the back of the house, number 3, paper in the front yard, number 4, tire impressions, measurements of the distance, mattresses, miscellaneous furniture, the cutout of the sheetrock in Maddie Mogan's room, pictures in the house, outside of the house, video footage of both, computer tower in Kaylee G's room, all cell phones in the house, golf clubs, miscellaneous clothing of the victims, video footage 1112 and possible 700 Queen Road, 500 Queen Road, number 52. Buccal swab from BK, fingerprints from him, and possible other identification, driver's license, school ID, etc. Witness statement, 911 call, possible DoorDash camera footage of white Elantra. And this is not evidence to be used in the trial in the possible leak. The Linda Lane footage, I believe, is a red herring. The gas station footage of the car also is a red herring. The IgG testing, I don't believe will be used in the trial. I believe it was an FBI tip, not to be used as evidence in the trial. The Banfield body cams, also a red herring. Police body cams of the noise complaint before the murders, not applicable to the actual crime. The black coat on the fire hydrant, not taken for evidence or was not crime scene related. 4 guys running in the background of the body cam, not crime related or have been cleared by investigators. The Fight Club, unverified by police or spoken by. Moved from other location, unverified. Okay, as I continue to break this down, I'm going through the timeline. Actually, I made this PowerPoint, and it is for people to understand exactly everything that was potential evidence throughout the searches, the search warrants, and things like that. So it's a breakdown because for whatever reason, people think that everything that we've been shown, such as Linda Lane footage, the black coat on the fire hydrant, the 4 guys running in the background on the body camera, stuff like that, that's going to make it into the trial, and it is not. By police or spoken by. Brian seen on the Banfield the next morning. It's unverified by police or spoken by. 5 people in the backyard the next morning is unverified by police or spoken by. Drug hit or cartel involved drug house drug dealing, unverified by police or spoken by. I forgot to put grub truck in here. I believe the grub truck is not going to be used in the court hearing, just a Twitch video. I said, for people to claim there is no evidence in this case and it should be dismissed, look at all the evidence that we have been told about, and I wrote down based on memory, and I'm sure I missed some, but this alone is physical, scientific, forensic, and factual. This is hard to talk your way out of in a courtroom. But this alone, or I thought I would put this out there as the puzzle pieces that many cannot see. There's plenty, and if I really had more time, I would continue breaking down the statements and even the wounds. Hope you enjoyed. Suspect is innocent until proven guilty by a court of law and by a jury of his peers. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. What do y'all think? Anybody? I broke that down in order for people to see exactly the evidence that is going to be presented that is not circumstantial. It was documented on court documents on what they found in the car and at his home in Albrightsville. A lot of the other stuff, okay, the ID cards, not curls. It said curls. I don't know why. That just sounded weird to me, but you're right. It was probably the ID cards. Yeah. You know, I like to joke and say, Your Honor, I'd like to call the moon and the stars to the stand. That's kind of funny. They just got to have a lot of pick evidence. Brian was there because we've been watching this for a while and seen nothing. Well, that's why I wrote it all down like that, because people have been saying that based on the big highlight things, okay? But that's not all that there's going to be in the trial. I mean, a lot of times. Okay, y'all, hold on. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit to get to this next part. See if I hold on. This is the wrong video. I want to show y'all the other video, even though I did break this stuff down on this one. Y'all, hold on a second. Unique. Actually, this is the one that I wanted to show you guys. Let me get to the good stuff. Here we go. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. I took this from excerpts of part of what we know about Mr. Kohberger. And like I said, I'm just using him as an example. I'm not putting him as guilty or innocent. I want to stress that to the chat, to you guys. I'm just presenting the profiling, and he's the easy target because that's what we were going to talk about today. I call this the deception of a killer. As we know, he was bullied, mostly by females. He had weight issues, quiet, mostly in his books, anger issues early on, gaslight behaviors, physically aggressive, smash things, punch a wall. Friendship ended due to a headlock. Heated debates in doctorate classes, contrarian opinions, more disagreements with women. Kohberger was warned about his interactions with women working and frequenting a bar in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. This guy made creepy comments, keep an eye on him. After one or two drinks, gets comfortable. Would get upset with them a little bit. The waitresses. I don't know what you're talking about. You totally have me confused. And I'm gonna go in depth in how I broke these down, okay? Also, they said intelligent but quiet. I didn't socialize with him because he had made anti-LGBTQ comments, and I am a queer individual. He was quiet and stared a lot, but after the murders, he seemed more willing to talk and hold a conversation. If he visited the Mad Greek, wouldn't there have been same behaviors there at the pub? Notes about the creepy guy. He wouldn't look away if you caught him staring, like he wanted you to notice he was looking at you. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't say anything, just stared. Okay, so let's stop right there, okay? So let me go back up to the very top. Let me ask you guys in chat and as well as the panel guests, are you with me on what I'm trying to present here? Does it make sense? Because we are profiling somebody.
Yes.
So these are some of the negative things that were said about him.
Yes.
So this is how a profiling starts out.
Mhm.
So bullied, the emotional embarrassment. Okay. So this is the feeling. So these are some areas that stuck out through the articles, through the research that I compiled all together, and then I broke them down into personality traits and things like that to kind of give you more of an outline of what a psychological you'd be looking at this individual as. Like in the other one, I was telling you about the search warrants and stuff like that, the things that were found. Now this is actually breaking down the psychological effects of these statements based on this individual's demeanor, attitudes, and possible statements and beliefs. So these are all been compiled from various articles, identification of Mr. Koberger in the past. So it was I broke this stuff down. I broke it. I went one day and I was just going through articles and breaking down the highlighted areas. And I hope you enjoy this. It's an older one. So this one was way before documents, way before any of that stuff. And I hope that y'all enjoy it. Here we go. Behind being bullied. It's an emotional connection. Most of the time you feel embarrassed, loss of control. Would that not be true? Yes or no? Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's lots of recorded incidents.
Okay, can y'all still hear me? Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. Mostly by females. This would be a genre. This would be a sexuality issue. It would be challenging his sexuality. So if you're being bullied and it's mostly by females, and you know that he has two sisters, right? So imagine growing up in that family with two sisters, and let's say they bullied him also. This is totally speculatory, but we do know that he was bullied by females as he was going through school. So that plays on his sexuality, such as self esteem, feeling embarrassed, inadequacy, feelings of loss of control. And he had weight issues. We've heard about the weight issues. This is obviously a self esteem, self image issue. So, those people that say that there was no signs, no red flags, he was just a good guy, he was just quiet. I'm digging a little further here. Okay? I'm digging a little further here. He even had self admission in his writings that he had lack of empathy. So, if he didn't have any kind of empathy toward people that bullied him, that turned a behavioral change there. Does that make sense? Are y'all still with me?
It makes sense. We have actually, some knowledge about, some of this as well. And, it actually kind of hits home for us a little bit, some of the disconnection and, so it's pretty powerful, what you're putting here and how all these things do come together, because it ultimately, from our experience, it ultimately leads you down a path where you just don't feel other people's feelings. It is only about yourself. It is only about, how you're interacting with the world, not how the world's interacting with you. So, this is pretty powerful stuff here.
Okay, we have a question from the chat. I like to take questions from the chat. Heather says, how can he have met a girl since starting school in August and have installed her camera after a break, or got two chicks' numbers at a pool party if he's such an odd duck or so unliked by women? Okay, let me answer that, Heather. Okay, this is totally just based on the analytical part of it. So whenever you've been bullied by... Okay, we've now learned that he didn't meet an Asian chick. She worked with him. So it's not like he met her on his own, a Korean lady. And we know what happened supposedly with the camera and everything else. So the pool party thing, we only heard one person that came out and discussed the pool party. So we don't know if he actually got two numbers or he just got her number. The two people that we did hear about were married, and he supposedly wouldn't leave them alone. The husband came over. He totally ignored him. The ladies went off to swim in the pool, and he went and sat near where they were swimming, totally oblivious to boundaries. By individuals, this just says mostly. It didn't say all, okay? So mostly by females. He had weight issues, self-esteem, self-image, quiet, mostly into his books, coping, isolative. So the anger issues, the emotion, the coping skills. So what you were asking is, how can somebody so isolated and creepy and all this get these people's numbers and also install the camera of an individual he befriended? I'm not saying that all women were creepy to him. All women, there might have been some women that were attracted to him. I'm not saying that just because he started off in life like this, that he ended up in life like this. Because I'm gonna, if we get time, I'm gonna highlight some positives also. So this is not just a negative portrayal of Mr. Koberger. I'm gonna give some positives as well. Okay, so like I said, if we don't get through it tonight, we'll do a second part and we'll go into the positives and some other things that I have I've highlighted here. So I
Well,
hope that,
can I add something to that, to the answer
go
to
ahead.
that question?
Go ahead.
We've also experienced, because, we do understand some of these behaviors. We do know that there is the potential to feel some gratification in slaying the dragon, right? I know that this is a very difficult task for me to do, to maybe approach women, ask for their number, but there is some self-satisfaction in saying, hey, I can do this. I don't like this, but I can do this. I can accomplish things. I have self-worth. I have I can make myself feel better if I'm able to accomplish this task. What's odd about it, if they fail, it's like, well, I expect it to fail. So it's a really interesting fact of how to try to conquer small daily tasks in the world when you are fronted with some of these things that you've listed here.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture that Mr. Koberger had such bad coping skills, but when I read these today, this is what jumped out at me. Okay. And as a therapist, I'm programmed to look at certain patterns in life from people. And this is how I would do an assessment on somebody. So when I'm reading these things about him, because these are out there, it's not something I made up, it's not something that I invented. These are out there. You know, they've been out there since the very beginning. And you can say that people have just tried to paint him in a negative light. But like I said, just to show you, here's some positive stuff as well, you know? So we will get to that. Okay. Anger issues. This one popped out a lot. This is emotional and coping skills. This is a way to get retaliation towards the feeling of being slighted or somebody constantly putting you down. We all have that capability, not just Mr. Koberger. Okay, we all have that capability. It's an emotional connection that many people, is their first response. If they feel like they're being controlled or that somebody has the capability of hurting them, a lot of times anger is out of control. So you can gain back that feeling of control. Gaslight behaviors, retaliation. So if somebody makes you angry, you can get retaliation back by gaslighting them. Do y'all know what gaslighting is?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Would you guys like to give the chat a very basic definition of what gaslighting is?
To me, I feel, for me, it's like someone's saying things to you that aren't true or visibly evident, but making you believe that they are.
Mm-hmm. So it would be a way to get control back, right? Try to manipulate the
Very
situation.
manipulative.
Yeah, very manipulative or turning it around.
Yeah.
And then I heard that as Mr. Koberger lost weight, he became physically aggressive towards some of his friends. This would be a retaliatory coping skill that he would be learning. And it's a self-empowerment as well. At this point, I believe he started boxing. So he was becoming very physically aggressive because he found a sense of power through being aggressive. So no more the bullying, no more the weight issues. The anger issues were probably under control, but he turned those into aggressive, retaliatory coping skills. Also read he would smash things, punch a wall. This stuck out to me as not wanting to hurt another human being. Do you hear that? When he
Yeah.
would smash things, when you would punch a wall, that means that you have conscience enough at that point in his life that he didn't want to hurt anybody. So it was easier to hurt himself because that's what he learned as far as being bullied, having weight issues, the self-esteem stuff, being quiet, introverted. Well, I'm going to hurt myself because this is normal. I'm not wanting to hurt anybody else. Does that make sense, guys?
It does. It does. And sometimes, you know, from what we're familiar with, there would be no physical contact. Anytime there would try to be anything retaliatory, it would be with words, you know, but never getting to a point of any type of confrontation, any physical confrontation. It would just be, like you said, a gaslighting or, you know, things of that nature. But yes.
Words.
Yep.
Yes. So one friendship even ended due to him putting him in a headlock. I don't know if y'all remember reading about that. Is one of his good friends. He ended up walking away from the friendship because Mr. Koberger put him in a headlock. This was a change of behavior, an escalation of dominance. So whenever you're at one end of the spectrum where you're the victim, as I highlighted in another video of mine, you can develop a trauma bond with people. So you have the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator. So in this dynamic, Mr. Koberger is no longer being the perpetrator or the victim, he's hopping up to be the perpetrator, and he's making other people his victim now at this point. And we'll get to how he becomes the rescuer as well. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So, heated debates in doctorate classes. I read also that once he got into the doctorate program, he would have heated debate to show that he was always right. This would be an emotional connection and presentation to the world. Look, at one point in my life, I didn't have this method of control. Now I'm smart. Now I'm skinny. Now I'm not going to let anybody show me up in any way whatsoever. So it's easier to get into debates where you know your stuff and you're not going to let anybody control you. So this is a change of behavior as well, an escalation, an emotional presentation to the world, the contrarian opinion. This is meaning that I'm being very contrite. This is an emotional attachment, another presentation, and another level of control. I'm going to show you that you're not as smart as you think you are. And instead of being physical, I'm going to use verbal skills to show you I can put you in your place without having to lay a hand on you. So if we're looking at this up to this point, because obviously he's already gone through college at this point and he's going into his doctorate, okay? Does this sound like a killer to you?
To me, it sounds like,
Be honest.
Yeah, I have to say a killer in training.
Okay.
Only because, especially, and you mentioned in your last statement, when you start to insert your intellectual dominance, right? Whatever you have to become more powerful, whether it's through the boxing or, physically grabbing somebody or using your intellectual dominance, all of a sudden you have this urge of retaliation. And it could be a very innocent bystander, someone who just happened to be in the area, nothing that maybe had happened previously. But if you are putting your, having some of those urges to retaliate in some way, I think it's the makings of something that could be way more nefarious in the future.
Okay, and that's
no, I see the opposite side.
yeah.
okay. That's
Different.
fine. That's why I like to present this stuff, because everybody's opinion is valid. Okay, even if you're not believing anything I say, anything that I'm kind of putting these puzzle pieces for you, it's okay. We're adults.
I
we
get
can
that
have discussions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get that it's a profile for a reason, that there are people who commit certain crimes that exhibit these types of behaviors. I get that. Where I struggle with, and personally in my life also, is looking at these traits, and you don't know what to believe. You don't, until something happens and in Bryan Kohberger's case that it did happen. He's the guy. We've seen all the evidence. It's gone through court, all of that. Then we'll be able to go back in hindsight and say, see all these XYZ traits. But when you don't know, there are people that have these traits their whole life and may not ever commit any kind of a crime. So it's very hard.
Good point right there. Good point. And Heather once again says, in her experience, let me put this up here. In her experience, most teachers, professors, and TAs think they're the smartest in the room. Don't mean they have the capacity for homicide. That's so true. I mean, you made a great point right there, Kim. I'm not trying to paint a picture whether he's the guy or whether he's not the guy right now.
Right.
But I want to show you how easily it is for people to jump one way or the other. That's mostly the reason I'm putting this out there tonight, It's because it's easy to point, okay, well, this, you can go from this to the end result because you know the end result. There was a quadruple homicide. So by looking at this, you can say, there's no way. There's no way. But if you look a little deeper, as you said, there's people out there that have those tendencies. They just never act on them.
Yeah.
But we all have that one specific thing that could happen to us, and this is stirring underneath the surface, and boom, they go and wipe out a whole mall, and
Yeah.
they say,
Right.
and their parents are always saying, well, there's no way it could have happened. He was such a good kid. He was this, that, and the other, and this and that,
Yeah.
So.
People say that all the time.
And 12 gauge, this is a debate that Kim and I have. So you're really hitting on something that we've actually talked about a little bit. One of the things that we talk about is somebody who exhibits some of these traits, right? You have to be aware that, and in our case, some of the things that we think about are, and we're not close to it in this regard, but when urge meets opportunity, a person who exhibits some of these things can act in a very bad way. One-on-one, or like you had mentioned, in a mass killing or things like that. It's when that urge meets an opportunity. And there's so many examples of it. I know you said you talked about other cases. One of the ones that we often go back to is the Jeffrey Dahmer case. His very first killing was, he always had this urge, but would never act on it until he saw a hitchhiker. And I had the urge, I had an opportunity because my father was out of town, and that's how he got started. So I'm always aware of understanding these traits of people that we interact with, and making sure that, I don't want to be in a position with them in some way where that urge could lead to an opportunity for them to hurt us in some way.
Exactly. But I'm going to continue on, and I want you to think about this through my eyes right now, okay? Because I know that you've heard all this stuff, and you've dissected it, and you've put things together, and you've found your own theories. I'd like for you to kind of look at this through a therapist's eyes, okay? Because the way I look at things are totally different. There's no emotional attachment whatsoever. There's no emotional attachment. Everything is objective, meaning that black is black and white is white. You can try to convince me of your view, and that's fine. I respect it. But through a clinician's eyes, it's totally different. And I know that I have some clinicians in here, and I have some people that have firsthand knowledge of this stuff. And that's great. I'm happy about that they have that. But I'm looking at this totally different than an emotional attachment, because if you look at this emotionally, you're gonna want to be pro or guilt, if that makes sense whatsoever.
Sure.
So let's go on. Here we have more disagreements with women, grading harder on women, being called out because of it, having to answer to it. Genre. There's the woman again. Another woman issue. Could this potentially have anything to do with sexuality? Could this have anything to do with Mr. Koberger's sexuality? I know that that's a hard pill for a lot of people to even go there. But think about this. Most individuals that are domestic violence individuals, they don't like women. And I say that, I say in the regard that I don't want you to think that they don't like women. They do enjoy women, but they view them in a different light than an individual who has had a healthy upbringing with individual in their lives. Does that make sense, guys? Chat, does that make sense? You don't have to agree with me, but I'm just trying to show and understand or give you an understanding of why I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay? So here we go. Koberger was warned about his interactions with women working and frequenting a bar in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. More sexuality, what is viewed as creepy? Because that's the word that they used. Creepy behavior. Do y'all remember this? Have y'all gotten to that point yet where you've read about, his interaction with the waitresses there at the bar? What is viewed as creepy? You tell me. You guys tell me in the chat. What is viewed as creepy? You have a couple of drinks, you're hitting on some waitresses, you're asking them for their phone number, you're asking them what they're doing with their lives. He's a 28-year-old male. What's viewed as creepy? Y'all tell me. Heather, tell me what creepy is. You tell me. I want to know. Because that's the word that they used by his name. He has, after one or two beers, he gets creepy. What does that mean, guys?
Getting in your personal space, physically touching you when you don't want to be touched, following you around.
But is that viewed that way because of the way he looked, or possibly the way he just stares at you? The stare.
It could be
Just
that.
jump out on a limb with me here. What is so creepy? Because those words have been uttered more than one time in describing this individual.
He does have a dark blank stare,
Okay.
or he could. I mean, he has dark eyes when you look at some of his photos.
Okay. Christy says just staring at you. So just staring at you can be viewed as creepy in your eyes, right? Let's see what deception says. Y'all have who other view on who might have happened? I think it go back to Ashley Fugel. I don't know what that is, but okay. Twiz says creepy doesn't have to deal with touching all the time. Also, creepy is different from girl to girl. You're very true there. I'm trying to get some insight because this word has followed him for a long time. He started asking where they live and awkward questions like that. Yes, I read that also. I haven't gotten to that point, but yes. So what's creepy about that? You're 28 years old. Carlos, you've been 28 before, right?
Well, I was just thinking,
These are the women.
well, I was
You're
thinking
28
like,
last year. You were 28
yeah, exactly.
last year,
Thank you
right?
for that.
There you
But-
go. There you go.
Has somebody ever been kind of weirded out by me, maybe in a happy state after a couple beers? I would like to think not, but what I do know is I'm very tall. And so I'm 6'6". I think Koberger is well over 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
So
6
I
feet tall,
also
huh?
know that I have to be very careful. I stand with my feet spread apart, so I look shorter, in public. I try not to stare over people at somebody, and this was many years ago, well before, we got married. But, I certainly wouldn't make extended eye contact if I was,
Okay.
if I was interested in somebody, I would try to, walk over and try to have a conversation. I think anytime I did anything across the room or tried to do, like sexy eyes or something, I think that would lend to creepiness, especially at my size, with a couple
Okay.
beers in me. It probably looked pretty silly.
So you just sitting there just staring at somebody like this, be like, that be
Exactly.
creepy?
Exactly.
But, and I think, I don't know, the women in the chat can add to this, but most women who have been out at establishments probably have used that word, describing some guy that's creepy. Like I would use it, just for any unwanted attempts at trying to get attention or not taking no as an answer or something like that.
Okay.
And putting it in a little perspective, not to go against the women here at all, but
Right.
if I was Brad Pitt looking in that direction after a couple, pops in me, I would probably be described less creepy than if I was Carlos staring across the room after having a couple alcoholic beverages. So I guess it's all perspective too.
Right. I love this comment right here. Andrew, you made me laugh. You made my night. You said vampires who stay up all night and gaze at the stars are creepy.
There you go.
Vampire.
Awesome. Heather says creepy is a feeling a woman gets during an encounter with someone. It can be from a lot of different reasons.
Yes, Heather. Yes.
At WSU, he freaked one girl out so much she ran out of the room. He followed one to her car.
Mm.
Okay. Let's see what Miss Q said. It's someone you find unattractive. To be honest, at least you're being honest.
Yeah.
Because that's we want to know the truth. I mean, why sugarcoat it? We're all adults in here. A woman can feel a creeper usually.
Yeah.
And that word has been everywhere in this case. That's why I'm not trying to be ignorant here, okay? I'm just trying to really get an understanding at different people's perspective of what that word means. Because think about it, being a juror, and you hear that word, because it's going to be uttered there somewhere. He's viewed as a creeper. He's viewed as creepy. Angry. This, that, and the other. They don't validate you as a positive individual with that word. Yes or no? Yes.
Yeah.
Deception says, well, I'm creepy. I love stars. I'm always awake at night. There are way too many single moms to trust their intuition. I've experienced a creeper quite a few times. Few stuck in my mind. Okay, well, let's go on from that. I just wanted to invading your space more than staring. Okay, so if somebody is having a couple drinks, you tell them, hey, Brian, you're cool, but I got a boyfriend. Well, he ain't got it like me, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just creepy is creepy to people. So whatever their view is. But I just want to know if really Brian gets the benefit of the doubt in any scenario. You get what I'm saying? Like, let's say he goes to Hooters next door and they don't find him creepy. Is it because people have ganged up and said, hey, that's just a creepy mother, Don't go give Brian more than 2 beers because he'll try to hit on you. Or he'll just sit there and stare at you all night. But at Hooters, he does the same thing, and people are like, and he leaves them $100 bill and tip. He's not creepy at all then, right? Does that make sense? I'm being honest here.
Tip
Y'all
or
know
not, still gonna think
Yeah.
you're creepy.
Well,
Y'all-
Rich, I'm gonna
y'all
leave
know
you
what
like
I-
that
y'all
on
know what
that
I'm-
one. I don't think I can.
But I did see someone make the comment about Asperger's or something like that somewhere, him being on the spectrum. Are
Yeah.
you going to address that part of it too, maybe?
Go ahead if you'd like to do that. I mean, you're on the panel. You got free speech.
I would just say that if you're someone with that condition and people don't know you or understand that condition, because it sounds like a lot of people knew him, his friends, and got super annoyed to the point of not being his friend anymore because of his behavior. But I also know even people you think are close to you might not understand, especially if it's something undiagnosed.
Right. I mean, if he starts talking about criminal justice or psychology at the bar, that's going to seem kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, it's gonna seem
When
very weird.
everybody when everybody else is talking about football and what they did last night and this and that and the other, and he bust out with, "Well, you know what? That sounds like a crime and blah 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 and this and that." Bro, we are just talking about the handcuff that my girl used last night or whatever. I'm just trying to keep it clean, but
Yeah, that's a great example. That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
it's kind of creepy, right? Kind of creepy.
Well,
So
and one thing about the Asperger's maybe is a lot of times they really don't pick up on social cues. So if someone's looking back at you and like, hey, what are you doing? And you just continue to stare because you may not be able to pick up on some of the social cues that are out there too. So I guess I kind of understand a little bit that that's part of the
Yeah.
diagnosis that he has. Maybe it's just he's unaware. He's unaware of how people around him are reacting to him. He just can't pick up on those clues.
But we don't know if he has any diagnosis like that, right?
of course, we haven't heard of any. Okay.
Yeah.
Deception. I was going with this as well earlier because I kept seeing it pop out. No pun intended. Well, we have heard recently that this was going to be a defense um, motion to use the ASD. So we're still waiting to see if that is going to be a defense tactic that gets utilized in the trial. I hope you are enjoying this breakdown so far. Here we go. Pop up, as sexuality. What if you don't like girls? I know it said one of the students said he had something about LGBTQ. I really don't believe that though. Well, sometimes people try harder when they want to come across as the alpha.
Yep.
Maybe he was a little confused. Who knows? Wow. Heather says exactly. My brother is smart, but socially he is creepy.
Yeah.
We probably don't know somebody like that.
Too bad Sarge isn't here.
Oh
I think
boy.
there's a guy named Sergeant Friday, and he has his own show.
I know Sarge, yeah.
You're right, Michelle. Sometimes these type of situations are defense tactics to raise a reasonable doubt. I in no way am trying to excuse his behavior based on the breakdown. Basically, I'm just trying to show de-escalation between all these types of scenarios. Sarge. Okay.
Not know him, but I've seen him in chat.
Okay, here's another one. It says, would get upset with them a little bit, an emotional loss of control. So think about that a little bit. If you've been bullied, you have anger issues from your childhood, you have unresolved reenactments. A reenactment is anything that continues to occur with you. It's not necessarily PTSD, but it's a reenactment of some kind of trauma. So you're bullied, you see yourself in a different light, and all of a sudden these girls are getting upset with you, telling you to leave them alone. What's the difference in that and somebody making fun of you about your weight? There's very not much difference. You have a loss of control because somebody is pushing you away. You don't have control here. You can't woe them with your knowledge. You can't woe them with your place in the college realm. So emotionally, you're just free falling. And then the manager said, I mean, does anybody find it interesting that he was 28 years old and the victims were so much younger than him? It would have been different had the victim been closer to his age, because it has been studied that most individuals that are with other people that are substantially younger than them, if they're not capable of having the emotional stability, and it is just for a power and control situation, then that's where toxicity rises. So possibly
he was able to look at these individuals that were younger than him and trying to be the alpha male. And when it didn't work, this was one more failure in his belt of life.
Says, hey, can you kind of lay it off a little bit? You're creeping people out one more time. And what does he do? He goes for that emotional control. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. You totally have me confused. Grandiosity, lying, self image. He's trying to regain that control because he even called a waitress a bitch, I think, supposedly.
Wow.
So when the manager comes up and confronts him, he saves face and says, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Excuse my language. You totally have me confused. Grandiose, mic drop moment. I'm walking out your place. Does that make sense, guys?
For sure.
Is this supposedly at the Greek restaurant?
No, this is at the beer pub in Pennsylvania before he came to
Oh, okay. Okay.
to Pullman.
Okay.
So there's his grandiosity, lying, self-image. So he's lying to maintain self-control, the grandiose state he has about himself. Okay, another one says intelligent but quiet. Inner fights with emotional attachment or fears. Do y'all get what I mean by that?
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't socialize with him because he had made anti-LGBTQ comments and I'm a queer individual. Deflection of his own insecurity, sexuality. Was he fighting his own image? So another individual said they didn't socialize with him because he had those comments and he was, he didn't feel comfortable around them. He was quiet and stared a lot, but after the murders, he seemed more willing to talk and hold a conversation. Could he have found his new project? Not necessarily a connection to it. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Yeah. If he visited the Mad Greek, wouldn't there have been the same behaviors there at the pub? Notes about the creepy guy. Let me pause on that one, okay? Carlos, you and Kim, give me your insight on this. If you haven't really gotten to the Mad Greek yet, that's where Maddie and Xana worked. It was rumored that Brian visited there. There was never any kind of confirmation on that. But what I'm asking right now, if he visited the Mad Greek, if he visited the Grub Truck, if he visited Starbucks, wherever, would there not be the same type of accusations about this man?
You would think.
Well, we we dive into a little bit on alternate theories, right? If not Brian, who, right? So we have talked about the Mad Greek, and this is me saying I believe it's Brian, but I know that's not what we're doing here tonight. But it just leads me to a conversation I think we had that if there was an attraction at the Mad Greek, I think what you're kind of asking here was, why don't we hear about similar behavior at the Mad Greek like we did back in Pennsylvania? And my thought was that's where the attraction, maybe an unhealthy attraction, blossomed or started. So when, because motive is very thin here, very, very thin in this case, but you pointing out here that there's a slight change of behavior or undocumented changes or undocumented behavior that he had previously almost lends itself to, could there be some type of long distance, even though it's maybe 10, 20 feet infatuation with somebody, and it could have sparked or spurred from there. We've had some of those conversations it's a big step to take that and go to what happened at the apartment that night, but it's not insignificant in my eyes. What's your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
Right.
Kim, how about you?
Well, we had said if you're vegan in a small area like
Yes.
that and it's a vegan restaurant, you've probably been there, like number one. And then I don't know, I kind of can see it through the lens of if you're someone who would have some control, being able to try to stop those types of behaviors, if he was someone who could do that, starting over fresh in a new place might be a place to be able to do that. That's what I thought. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I literally thought about that question as I was writing this because to me, I'm very particular about patterns. Okay. I'm very particular about patterns. Everybody has them. And I've said that multiple times on different streams of mine. So if somebody had a pattern of being creepy, and Rondi says, the Mad Greek isn't a bar, I get that. But
True.
if you're creepy towards women, you're going to be creepy towards women no matter where you go. So there's been many that theorize that he met his victims at the Mad Greek, 2 of them. And maybe even saw Kaylee at the Mad Greek. So I'm saying, could this have been a creepy experience for any 3 of those if he made it known? Or at this point, had he been able to, because just like Ted Bundy, he was very charismatic, he was able to turn it off and on. At this point, and once again, I'm not trying to say yay or nay, but what I'm saying is, could he have had more control over his outlandish behavior, outlandish creepiness, so to speak?
And 12 gauge, let me say this because you mentioned it earlier. Could what made that mask fall, the one that he was given to society to say I'm a normal person, could that mask fall when he had a couple beers or when he was in, an establishment that sold alcohol? And maybe that's when I no longer have the control and, for lack of a better term, the creepy comes out. But if I'm at a restaurant or if I'm in, being a TA in class, that mask doesn't fall as easily as it does with maybe a couple shots of alcohol or something.
True.
Exactly. I like that. I'm going to bring Sergeant Friday up to the panel for a little bit. That way we can get his perspective on anything we're talking about. Once again, we're not going towards or. I'm going to speed this up because he does have some inappropriate statements. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it without anybody being on the panel for a little bit. The next one says he wouldn't look away if you caught him staring, like he wanted you to notice that he was looking at you. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't say anything, just stared. This would be a method of control, intimidation, and also could be self-esteem. So if somebody is unable to break the stare, you know how it's easy for you to be it's easy for you to be looking towards somebody, right? But when you catch them looking at you, most general people, they turn away. They don't keep staring at you. They look at the ground, whatever. If somebody is attracted to you, they're gonna be looking. It's normal. But it's my perception that as I was reading these documents,
in these articles that it was more than just a casual stare. Um, he was really just he was just really quiet and really intense staring. He made me uncomfortable, definitely noticeable. This would infringe on boundaries, control, and as he says, lack of empathy. Because if we're unable to see or articulate what other people are feeling, we don't know that we're infringing on their boundaries. We believe that, hey, I haven't done anything for you to feel creeped out. I haven't done anything for you to act like you're acting towards me. And that in turn would turn him into being defensive and possibly verbally escalating, if that makes sense at all. I like this statement right here by Michelle. She says, monsters can hide behind the mask of an angel. Even the devil was an angel at one time. You're very true. So, the next one says 2 knives, a Glock handgun with 3 empty magazines, black face mask, black gloves, a black hat, green leafy substance in a plastic bag, a book with underlining on page 118 and the suspect AT&T bill. Could this have been a kill kit or the killer's extra gear? I'll leave that for your understanding. You can type that in the comments after the video is done, or you can type that in the chat. The warrant said that the documents were vehicle paperwork, books, a prescription, a cell phone, laptop, and power cable were also collected. So we have to wonder what was on that laptop. You get what I'm saying? What was on that laptop? Let me continue on with this. That way we can get to the next questions. I don't know if I even get to the next questions because we get caught up in some unrelated stuff that didn't even need to really be discussed at that point. The fact of the matter is, what I was trying to portray here, and I guess I didn't get any further than that. But I do have the list, and I might do a live later on the remaining portions of that. Um, what I was trying to say is, we've later found out that he had pornographic searches. Nobody knew exactly what time frame this was, but the pornographic searches were about people potentially sleeping, being drugged. So these would exemplify that the individual would not have any resistance doing what they wanted to do, because if somebody was asleep, you would catch them off guard. If they were drugged, obviously you wouldn't have a fight on your hands. So drug could mean intoxicated or anything of that nature. Um, like I said earlier, with the trauma bond, he could have been bonded with his own trauma, and instead of being other people's victim, he would shuffle between a rescuer role and the perpetrator. It's kind of like when we heard about him saving a coworker's when they were supposedly choking or something, and he was able to do the Heimlich or something. That I remember something of that nature early on. That put him in the rescuer mode, and at that point in his life, he was probably on the right path. So he was probably feeling good about himself, actually doing good, but also fighting the urges to rebel against that goodness because of the addictive process that changes your mindset over the years. And doing this as a job and as all the schooling and training that I have regarding this, drugs and alcohol change your mindset. So at that point, even though he was doing well and he was trying to rescue, he was trying to keep himself out of a victim role. So he would no longer be bullied. He was trying to escape that past. And now he was trying to be, in essence, a people pleaser by helping, by being the rescuer, as that example stated. And then we found out that he had applied at WSU for a position. And as I stated earlier, there was a lot of instances where women in his life had victimized him. So when he didn't get the position, as we assume, to another woman, he lost that position. Therefore, in his mind, it could have been he was victimized yet again by another female. So instead of, I wish I had a dry erase board to show this, but imagine a triangle. At the very tip at the top is perpetrator. On both sides of the bottom two portions, one side is a rescuer, one side is the victim. So that would have taken him back to the victim role. So nobody likes to stay in that role very long because they're trying so hard to get out of that. And the perpetrator means that you cross that imaginary line between good and evil. If you have those urges to go that direction, but you feel that life has wronged you and that you don't have any sense of obligation towards yourself or others, which would be lack of empathy, you know, at that point you start creeping up that side to become a perpetrator of some sort, whether it be harassing women, whether it be overpowering and being controlling, whether it be getting angry very quickly. It doesn't necessarily have to be de-escalation to be a killer, but it can. It can get to that point because at the top of the pinnacle, there is a lot of negative behaviors and a lot of built up frustration, angst, and like not Daniel, Carlos stated, when urge meets opportunity, then usually you have destruction. And it's very dangerous once you get to that point because you could be knowledgeable enough and proficient enough to tell yourself, I don't need to be doing this. But at that point, you're just going on unconscious, whatever it is that you've bottled up for so long. And I believe that that's exactly what happened to Mr. Koberger. I believe that he was trying to change due to his, addiction and everything that went along with it. He was trying to build a self esteem. He tried to do that by losing weight, getting the surgeries and everything else, and still being treated the same way. It must shatter your image because some people, let me give you this example. Let's say if you're heavier set and you've been heavy set for a long time and you decide, you know what, I'm tired of being heavy set. I'm tired of the jokes. I'm tired of the innuendos. I'm gonna go work out and start losing some weight. I'm gonna eat healthy, all this stuff. But you do it trying to please other people instead of doing it for yourself. So once you start losing the weight, once you start your body starts changing and morphing into the person who you feel other people are going to be accepting of, you still deal with the internal feelings of a bigger person. So it doesn't matter how fit you get. People are congratulating you, they're telling you good job, but on the inside you still see yourself as a bigger person in the mirror and you're never satisfied with it. So you do one or two things. You become very obsessive until you become very sickly looking and you're no longer fit, or you just give up and start gaining the weight back because it's a self fulfilling prophecy. So at those points, I believe that when Brian lost that weight and got the surgeries, he was on a mission to maintain. He was on a mission for change. Like I said, he was on the riskier side of the trauma bond, and he was content with being there. And he was probably there all through his studies. I believe that he may have fluctuated between rescuer and perpetrator at times, but not all the way up the pinnacle. I believe that he didn't allow other people to victimize him at that point. He was always the one in control, the smartest person in the room. So by the time he went to WSU, this is a very lonely life if you're doing it without an attachment to society or even to yourself or to your self image. The only thing you see is a past failure working toward change. So he gets to WSU. He starts having problems with his professors. He starts having problems with his students. He starts visualizing the life that he's trying to help these people learn. And they're just basically slapping him in the face. In his mind, I was very highly acclaimed coming here. I got an acclamation from a professor. You know, I was one of the highest persons in the class mentally, blah, blah, blah. I come over here and I come crashing down, and these people are slowly inching me toward the victim role again because they're victimizing me, trying to say he's grading us harshly. He's not fair towards women. The professor, you know, his boss or whatever, was critiquing his work, making him do an improvement plan, all these things. And plus, trying to maintain a social life. And as we found out, the only person that he really socialized with was one of his coworkers. So he's still trying to formulate a life for himself at WSU while trying to maintain the helpful person. Well, that helpful person started getting resentment, started getting anger built up, started getting an unrealistic version of themselves, the urge to act out. The fire was building. And then the pool party. We don't know if he met one of the victims there. We don't know if he saw one of them there. We don't know if he met somebody that knew one of the victims. But somehow or another, I believe that that pool party introduced him to 1122 King Road. There could have even been a party there that night. Somebody could have invited him from the pool party to 1122. He followed them over there, and instantly, bam, he runs into either all or maybe one or two of the victims. And instantly, he becomes the perp, which is feeding the inner demons of not only him talking about serial killers, listening about serial killers, fantasizing about serial killers, and having his own delusional thoughts interject into his reality. And it was morphing into something that was gaining more control over him than he was able to control. And like I said, once urge meets opportunity, the fantasy is enacted. So I believe once he became fixated on that residence, that's that explains the 23 times because it is an obsession. You are being driven by an obsession. And if you've ever been addicted to anything, it's the pleasure. You could be laying in bed and you wake up long enough to remember something that gave you pleasure, such as somebody's face. Somebody could be posting something. You're instantly smitten by something that you're viewing, and it becomes an obsession. I got to get over there to view what's going on. I wonder if I can see in her room. the voyeuristic, the the peeping Tom, that aspect. So the 23 times. I don't believe that he was planning to murder them at that point, but something was ticking inside him if he is the one. Tick, 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 tick. Unstable, fantasy driven, past and present failures, and a loss of control and sanity ultimately could have led to what ended up happening. And you could go without sleep and become very delusional, very, very withdrawn from reality because the serotonin not being uptaked. And if you're using drugs in the process, it even messes it with it even worse. So he could have been in a hyper stimulated state of mind all the time. And it isn't until the arrest that he came down, detoxed a little bit, and then became understanding of exactly where his life had gone and the time he had lost during the anticipation of just becoming successful and how he let his urges become his destiny. I hope you enjoyed this tonight. I'm going to try to get some sleep. Michelle, thank you so much for your comments. I will highlight some of them and then I'm going to sign off. Let me see what you said after that. You said psychotic traits can be no ability to have social cues, almost staring through you like a human, but you're being studied by them to mimic. Yes, you're right on point. Makes easier to gain trust of the person you have in mind as a victim. It's kind of not like you normally don't smile, but everyone around you is smiling. You learn to smile around these people because they look at you strange when you're not smiling, you know? I think he struggled with inner conflicts, and no matter the situation, he couldn't get away from who he really was. He was a little battered boy in a man's body with no longer allowed to be a victim. Very true. And now he's older, stronger, and he's the one who could dish out what chaos he received as a child, possibly. That's right on point. So it really doesn't matter if 1122 was the end result, or it could have been 1121, or it could have been 1127, or it could have been the Korean woman, or it could have been the female he met at the pool party. I believe that every stage that we've learned about his life throughout this time has given us a pattern of the buildup of what eventually happened at 1122. I don't believe that possibly the females in there were known, but the house was targeted due to the easy entrance in the back and the easy entrance leaving the residence. And he possibly may have known that the slider was broken based on observing that house so much. Yeah, it was going to happen somewhere, somehow. And those 23 times, just because they were around the 1122, does not just necessarily mean that he was scoping out 1122 each time. There's plenty of student housing around there. You don't know if he was scoping out any houses on Walenta, on Taylor, on Steiner, or anywhere near there. So he was obviously at the perpetrator at the peak, at the pinnacle of the trauma bond. And once you're up there, it's very difficult to come down until you resolve whatever inner conflict that you're dealing with. And most of us are able to do that. We may hurt other people verbally during anger or outbursts, but we don't kill them, usually. This was a heightened state of mind where there was no logical thought. It was based on autopilot. Based on autopilot. He was going through life, gathering up momentum, and ultimately, what you indulge in is who you become. And as we've learned, he was very fixated with Ted Bundy, the son of Sam, and other serial killers, you know? So that's why I tell people sometimes take a break from these true crime platforms because ultimately what you indulge is what you become without even realizing it. Do I believe that Brian was a bad person? No. I believe that he was a very troubled individual and he slipped through the cracks with the illusion of his education that he was gaining, the momentum that he was gaining through educational progress. You know, so I hope that y'all have enjoyed this. Let me know how I did. I will do the second part with the other parts of the deception of a killer because I did outline this into positive and negatives. I just didn't get to that night because there was a huge interruption after that person came up on panel. So, y'all have a lovely night, what's left of it, or morning, or wherever it is that you are at. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. There's plenty more in the library. Enjoy. Maestro, cue that music.